Now, senior citizen Sam K. Jonah has decried a culture of silence which he says has developed in the country. Mr. Jonah, in his recent public lecture with Rotarians in Accra under the theme Down the Up Escalator, Reflections on Ghana's Future by a Senior Citizens, bemoaned that many individuals and civil society organizations that used to speak up against social ills have all gone mute despite wanton corruption, killing and torturing of journalists, also rising moral degeneration in the Ghanaian society. Listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is baffling is that those who used to have voices on these things seem to have lost their voices. People speak on issues based on who is in power. It's our definite silence suggesting that we are no longer concerned about issues that we complained about yesterday. The molestation and, in some cases, assassination of journalists, murder of MPs, corruption, the harassment of agents. We have just finished another election, the 8th in the series since the beginning of our fourth republic, democratic experiment. As usual, the accolades came from all over the corners of the world, and we took them with pride, as we should. But we failed to tell the world, what we failed to tell the world is that some people lost their lives in the course of the election. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, no election is as important as to warrant the loss of even one life. And the silence over it is numbing, as it gives the impression that it is okay and it is to be expected. No, it is not to be expected. It is not okay. Let me say that one of the saddest moments for me was after the State of the Nation address, when a prominent MP was asked why there had not been serious outpouring of grief about the death of the innocent people in Techiman. His response was that, as far as he was concerned, they were undeserving of any sympathy because he saw them as armed robbers. For me, that was a new low for the country. We also witnessed, arguably, the biggest assault on our democracy since the beginning of the Fourth Republic. When on the eve of the swearing-in of the president, at a time when there were no ministers, and crucially, let me repeat, crucially, there was no Minister of Defense, armed soldiers, that is to say, officers from an institution that works by command, invaded our parliament, and up to date, no serious answers have been provided. This could have been grave, this could have had grave consequences for the future of our country. The least of that we deserve is a public inquiry. Have we become so numb to these things? Ladies and gentlemen, the indiscipline on our roads has become a nightmare. Last year, 1,115 people lost their lives or got seriously injured due to road accidents. A 22% increase over 2019 figures, according to the Bureau of Public Safety. For the first 3 months of this year alone, more than 700 people have died from road accidents. By comparison, the COVID-19 has killed 760 people over a one-year period. This is clearly indiscipline on our roads is far more deadly than the coronavirus. Our media landscape is so polarized and partisan. There is hardly any objectivity because a lot of the media stations are owned by politicians whose interest is in swaying voters one way or the other. Independent media practice seems to have faded, and journalism has become a conveyor belt for political propaganda, insults, and acrimony. What is the status of the role of the media in holding the executive, judiciary, the legislature accountable as the fourth estate of the realm? Is it enough to just report issues? Where are the investigations? Where are the facts? These are the hard questions that the media must ask and reassess its role in shaping our country's future. In the past, when all else had failed, academia was the last vanguard. We all remember the role that the Legon Observer played. Under the hallowed cloak of academic freedom, men and women of conscience could write and speak words that penetrated the halls of power. It appears to me that in recent times, in our fourth Republican dispensation, the courage to stand up for the truth and the determination to uphold the common good seems to be missing. Now, at that moment, it is concerning that the voices of the intellectuals are receding into oblivion. Sadly, it is a consequence of deep partisan polarization of our country, said that everything is seen through the lenses of politics. It appears to me that the culture of silence has returned, this time not enforced by legal.
Mr. Jonah also bemoaned Ghana's constitutional dispensation now seeks to give so much power to the executive arm of government at the expense of other arms that he says is crippling any possibility of a real check or checks and balances.
The very nature of our democratic setup, in my view, is our undoing. The three arms of government are like a tripod. For stability, each leg must have enough strength to stand. In our system, one leg, the executive, has more strength than the other two combined. In fact, the two seem to derive their strength from that of the executive. That's weakening checks and balances. Any party that comes to power has absolute power to do whatever they want. The 1992 Constitution is the basis for the current democratic dispensation. It created a monstrous executive which looms large over the other arms of governance structure. And for 28 years, we have failed to make any meaningful changes to strengthen our democracy. Actually, what we have, if you pardon me to say so, is an executocracy, not democracy. The president is supposed to appoint the majority of his ministers from parliament. So you and I, by definition, that makes parliament a rubber stamp, because no MP in the ruling party will be able to stand up and demand accountability from the executive. They are all scrambling for positions. The judiciary is no different. The president has a determining role in the appointment of all the judges of the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice. This festers the perception that the situation compromises the impartiality and the independence of the judiciary. Indeed, a large section of the citizenry believe that the judiciary is not impartial, with 85% of Ghanaians in the recent Afrobarometer survey perceiving the judiciary as corrupt and ineffective. My own personal experience with the judiciary is that of frustration, lengthy and costly proceedings. Some lawyers take pride in being masters of legal gymnastics. Every opportunity to delay cases are seized upon. The commercial courts, which were set up to speed up the dispensation of justice, have become a huge disappointment. Disputes involving land overwhelm the courts. Land acquisition is the most important factor, but now I will tell you, in investment decision making. Any prolonged litigation over land frustrates any investor. Indeed, it has been said that the enclave that houses the Lands Commission, Lands Evaluation, and Title Registry, these registry, is arguably the most corrupt enclave in the world. It cannot be good for investment. But corruption pervades all aspects of our governance structure. A few years ago, a prominent member of parliament said publicly that parliamentarians take bribes to pass bills that favor their sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, if a fish comes out from water to tell us that crocodile has one eye, who are we to doubt it? Incidentally, the said MP is now the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Alan Barkley. Our governments, all the governments, we've had pay lip service to anti-corruption, but I'm afraid do very little substantially to cure the canker. Which of the major corruption issues has been conclusively dealt with since the Fourth Republic began? There have been many corruption scandals and none have been conclusively dealt with. I could give you a long list of unresolved corruption cases, but there's no need to bore you with something that we are all familiar with.
Dr. Jonah there.